a horrible week one performance against the Buffalo Bills. Just more of the same, Jimmy. I mean, no improvements from Sam Darnold, no creativity from Adam Gase. When Le'Veon Bell was on the field, he didn't do anything. They didn't utilize him properly, and he wasn't effective. They didn't throw to the sticks on third and long. So everything we've seen from the Jets from the last decade encompassed into one dreadful performance against the Bills. And the thing is, from talking to Brian, it doesn't seem like it gets any better from here. It doesn't seem like there's any solutions on the way.
That has to be the frustration for Jets fans. And we asked Brian about the comments Christopher Johnson made this week, which if you haven't seen them, he called Adam Gase, who has never had a top 20 offense in yards without Peyton Manning as his quarterback. He called Adam Gase a brilliant offensive mind.
What's going on?
Well, if he's a brilliant offensive mind, he sure is not using it. And we've seen that throughout his Jets tenure, particularly on Sunday. You mentioned all the issues, but I think the most concerning thing for Jets fans, Sam Darnold was like the quarterback of the future, right? He was the guy.
Franchise guy.
Third overall. You're putting all of the chips onto him. He looks worse than he did in year one. And he had bad footwork at USC. They fixed it in 2018. He has the same bad footwork again. And I think that's the biggest concern for Jets fans. Adam Gase has not shown you that he can develop this quarterback, and you have a team around him that's not very good. We figured that this year, so that's maybe not as big of a deal. But Sam Darnold has not shown signs of getting better. And granted, he has no weapons, so that's got to be part of it too, except for Le'Veon Bell, and now he's out.
It's not an excuse, though.
Yeah, but he does not look good. And Adam Gase hasn't shown you that he can develop this quarterback or really any other quarterback, to be honest, because all of the quarterbacks he's had were veterans other than Sam Darnold. So, no, I don't feel confident in the Jets right now. They're very much heading in the wrong direction, except for the fact that they've got Joe Douglas, the GM. But I don't think there's going to be the change that we need to see with the New York Jets if Adam Gase is the head coach. And I just think that's the reality that fans of this team have to accept.
It's interesting. And one of the amazing points Brian made, which I don't think this double standard gets pointed out enough, when the Jets play poorly and their players play poorly, because I know coaching is big in football, but it does come down to the players executing on the field. It's always Sam Darnold doesn't have the weapons. He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. We've seen flashes. We know what he can be. And then all the pitchforks are out when it comes to Adam Gase. And Jimmy, we can both agree, we're both on the record not being huge Adam Gase fans. Well, we don't love him as a head coach. But there comes a point where accountability has to be in the fold. And Sam Darnold, there is no real distinction between Darnold as a year one quarterback and Darnold in week one of year three. And we've seen 3 or 4 game stretches where he shows a glimpse of the franchise guy we want him so desperately to be. But there's been no consistent stretch, too shaky, and more often than not, you just get this, which is a very average to below average guy who is making these mistakes that you can't be making in your third year.
No, and there has to be some individual responsibility here, don't get me wrong. But keep in mind, he was hurt in 2018. He had the mono episode last year, which can only be described as an episode, particularly given how the Jets played in those 3 games without him. But yeah, there has to be some individual responsibility. I'm not absolving Sam Darnold of that. I don't think he was a guy that came into the NFL necessarily ready to start right away. They did so anyway because what were the other options? I mean, they traded away Teddy Bridgewater, who's now starting quarterback, but he was coming off the injury. He was not what he is now. So you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I develop my quarterback? How do I do it better? And you fire Todd Bowles, which is, I think, an obvious move. And you look at some of the guys they brought in to interview, right? Matt Rule and Eric Bieniemy and some of the names that they had, all of whom would have probably been better for Sam Darnold than Adam Gase. Now, again, not taking responsibility off Sam Darnold, he threw one of the worst interceptions I've seen in a while on Sunday. Rolling to his left, back across the green to the middle of the field, which was horrible. But the cast around him is also bad. The offensive line is horrible. Despite what they did in the offseason, at least that's what it looked like on Sunday. The receiver, I mean, their number one wide receiver this week is Chris Hogan. Like, how do you? And
That's an
Braxton
issue.
Berrios is going to get huge action. I mean, this is not good. This team is bad. They're going to have a bad supporting cast. He's playing bad. The coaching staff is bad. Everything about the New York Jets on the field product right now is bad. It's really bad.
Correct. Power to you. And when you have an owner who's saying, I've seen Adam interact with this team, I've seen him lead this team. Look back to last year. He took a team that did so poorly in the first half of the season and held them together, and they finished well. I think he has a lot more in him as a head coach than some of our fans are giving him credit for. And I understand they want to see success, and I think they will. Well, I think isn't going to cut it, Christopher Johnson. And I'm not sure where these leadership qualities are coming from and where this unlocked success was in the second half last year. You beat the Washington football team, the Raiders, which was their one impressive win. You lost to the Bengals 22-6. The Bengals,
Who were winless at that time.
were winless at the time. You beat the Dolphins by 1 point, got blown out by the Ravens, beat the Steelers by 6, and played an embarrassing game against the Bills that you were lucky to win. There was nothing positive about that second half of the season and nothing to indicate that Adam Gase is this amazing leader, this amazing guy who's going to put the team on his shoulders and say, follow me into the sunlight. There was nothing to indicate that that was the case. Simply a weak schedule where they played up a couple times and actually lost a couple of games that were ridiculous, that if they won, they would have been a 9 or 10 win football team. So don't lecture me about Adam Gase being a great leader. Don't lecture me about his ability to develop quarterbacks, because if he wasn't Peyton Manning's intern, he would not have this job. So I don't want to hear any more about this, and I want to start seeing improvement immediately in a 5, 6, 7 game stretch from Sam Darnold of franchise caliber quarterback material. And what I mean by that is a 4,500 yard pace, limiting the turnovers, and when you're backpedaling under pressure, you're not throwing it in the middle of the field. You know how to throw the ball away, and you know how to not take the sack. Enough of this. There's such this concept that you can deceive people and tell them that what they're seeing with their very own eyes isn't unfolding on the field. Like this is what we see. Well, what about what we see? And what we see is a terrible football team. Objectively, Jimmy. Am I missing something?
No, I don't think you are. I mean, but it's 21-0 after an hour. You have a problem. And let's look at the Jets schedule, because the Jets schedule was easy last year. Whether they were playing the Giants or the Dolphins or the Bengals or the good old football team. Let's look at the schedule this year. 49ers tomorrow, then Colts, Broncos on Thursday night, Cardinals, Chargers, Bills, Chiefs. That's just the first day game. Like, say goodnight. I mean, this is a bad team. They're playing a good schedule. They're a bad team. Sam Darnold has shown no signs of development. He's running for his life in the pocket. Okay. The Bills were sending pieces at him. And I find it interesting. I wanted to make this comparison on the show. So forgive me at the risk of sounding a little bit like Nick DeLuca here, but Sam Darnold and Josh Allen were taken the same year. Josh Allen has gone on an upward trajectory now for a couple of years. Sam Darnold, if anything, has flatlined or gone down. Okay? And that has everything to do with pieces around them. I don't think Josh Allen's that much better than Sam Darnold. I really don't. But the pieces around him, offensive line, running game, wide receivers, great defense, they have surrounded him with a really good team where he doesn't have to be the dude for them to win. Sam Darnold is pressing like crazy because he's got to make plays because this offense isn't doing anything if he doesn't.
The Jets put an army around Mark Sanchez, who I think is half the talent that Sam Darnold is, half the potential, and they went to the AFC title game 2 consecutive years. It's a great analogy with Josh Allen because they're putting the army around him that the Jets put around Mark Sanchez in 2009 and 2010. And the reason why they were such a force in the playoffs when Sanchez literally all he had to do was not turn the ball over, protect the football. If they put half of that around Sam Darnold, this could be a playoff team. Right. But they haven't done it. You just listed off the schedule. Do you see one win there? realistically, where's the win?
They can run into one, but I don't see it right now.
You could see 0-6, maybe 1-7 coming up, and then you're really going to have to question, Jimmy, about the future and direction of this franchise, because you're going to enter a draft probably with a top 3 pick, and you're going to be tasked with potentially picking a quarterback and starting this all over again. And we talk about these processes and these chances to flip the page and turn the script. The Jets are going to be faced with another one, and they're going to have to make a hard determination as to whether Sam Darnold is the master at turning the page, like Christopher Johnson would like to put it. They're going to have to determine that. And I really don't think the people are in place that are done drinking the Kool-Aid and are going to make these decisions objectively and based on what they're seeing with their own eyes. It's alarming. And I don't think it's getting any better. I really don't. It's going to be an interesting couple of months to see where the Jets line up, because this is looking like an 0-6, 0-7 start. And that's not an exaggeration.